Hey everybody, Coldar here. Today we are looking at the Show Me Your Moves achievement, part of the Will of the Emperor encounter in Mogu'shan Vaults. So this achievement is fairly difficult. Probably the most difficult achievement that we've done so far for the meta, with only one remaining for Shah of Fear, which is likely to be worse, but we'll see, of course. So the achievement itself requires that all 10 of your raid members successfully dodge all 5 attacks in a series for devastating combo, and then use their opportunistic strike attack that they gain for doing so upon the same boss target. Now what this means is that you will have 2 tanks, of course, and your 8 non-tank players, and your eight non-tank players plus the 1 tank can all dodge the combo strikes from one boss. So we are using Jan Shi for this purpose. So you can see that 9 players here, our tank and our non-tanks, are dodging on Jan, but we also have 1 tank that's on the other boss, Qin Shi. And because of this, that other tank will need to dodge the combo strikes on their boss, on Qin Shi, and then move over to use their opportunistic strike on the boss that the raid is targeting, on Jan. The reason for these selections is that Jan Shi actually starts his combo series around 4 seconds before Qin does. So you end up with a decent-sized gap of time for your solo tank to finish his combo dodging and then move over and use their strike after the rest of the raid has. So this is pretty much the way that it goes. Your raid will dodge on Jan Shi, and if anyone is unsuccessful for any reason, they call it out quickly in voice chat, and then your solo tank can save their movement abilities or not need to come over, because they will have about 7 seconds from the time that the combo ends on Jan Shi before they lose their opportunistic strike, because there's an extra 4 seconds till their combo ends, and then another 3 or so before they lose the opportunistic strike ability. So that 7-second gap is important here. If, like I said, for any reason someone fails on dodging on Jan and they call it out, then your other tank does not need to move over and get in position and stuff. Now that said, the way that you actually get your tank over in that position is really up to your raid. So you can use pretty much any burst movement abilities or teleports or anything like that to serve the purpose. So in our case, we had our monk tank on the solo boss without the raid, and then he used his Transcendence teleport ability so that he could just teleport right underneath the boss. He also came up with a series of macros that are highly suggested. Basically, a macro that targets boss 2, I think is the correct one for Jan, and uses opportunistic strike. So he can just spam that macro after he's teleporting, and as soon as he's in range, it will use the ability automatically on the right target. So since you have such a short window, you don't want to screw it up if you're the solo tank and you only get 1 shot at this while 9 other strikes have successfully landed. So set this up prior and practice it as that tank so that you know for sure if you are the last one and everyone's waiting for you to strike, you'll be able to do it. You can also use other methods, so life grip from a priest will work. You can probably use a form of sprint or charge if you're a druid or a warrior tank. You could theoretically use a warlock portal, although you have to be careful of the threat issue there. But really it shouldn't matter, because the goal here is to just get that total 10 strikes on the boss and then survive. So once your tank teleports over, you may see there that the boss will immediately grip them back. So you have to be very quick, like I said, about using your opportunistic strike as that tank. That tank has the most technically difficult job of this achievement by far, because they have to not only dodge the combo, but get over and use their ability within that short window before they're gripped back to their position. Now, technically, you can stack the bosses on top of each other and still acquire this achievement. The reason for this is that you only need to dodge the strikes of one boss because the combo counter is separate or unique. So if you're dodging the strikes of Janshi but getting hit by Chinshi's attacks, you can still get the 5 combo credits and the opportunistic strike ability. Now, of course, this is very dangerous because that's a ton of damage on the raid. You have the potential to get stomped if you're not careful and all that stuff. So it's not recommended that you stack the bosses, but worst case scenarios, you can do that. But I wouldn't suggest it. So as for specific tactics or strategies that you can do to simplify this achievement, the biggest and most important is, unfortunately, just practice. That's really what it's going to come down to. There will be, very likely, quite a few players in your raid that have not even attempted to dodge combos before because they've never had need. And you need to allow those players time to get used to it. That's really all it comes down to. That said, if those players can take the initiative and you're expected to do this achievement in your next raid or whatever, have them practice in other settings. Like LFR is a great setting to do this. It's not really a difficult setting as far as raid success, so you don't need to feel guilty if you're practicing on the boss, because even moderate DPS on them or getting a few strikes is going to add up. And so it's a forgiving situation in which to practice. So highly recommend that. Otherwise, you're just going to have to spend some raid time doing it. And, obviously people like your tanks and your melee DPS probably will have quite a bit of experience and not really need the practice, but the rest of your raid will need to spend the time doing it. Other than that, since the goal is to have everyone in the raid dodge the same set of combo strikes and get the same opportunistic strike opportunity, you should maximize your movement speed abilities so that everyone in the raid is moving as fast as possible and allowing them more margin for error if they don't react in time. So unfortunately, we don't have one going for this actual combo that we successfully do, so yay for us, but we have been using our sprint abilities. So we have a druid that can use roar. That druid also is using symbiosis on our warrior for a second AE sprint. And with 2 of these, you can pretty much chain them back to back so that the entire raid can be sprinted during the whole combo series. And that's quite helpful. Now, of course, these have cooldowns, so we used it on an earlier combo at the start of the fight, but we didn't successfully do that one. So again, we didn't have it for this second attempt, but every time you can, you should be using some movement improving abilities. Now, of course, this goes for specific individual players too. So if you have talents that increase your movement, or you have a short duration sprint ability, high movement ability, anything like that, you should be using it. You can even use swiftness potions if you need to, since you're not going to need your potion cooldown for the fight itself. So just determine what it is your raid needs and try to provide that as best you can. There are also a few other tips that can be helpful for players that are having trouble dodging. The best thing to do is to zoom your camera far, far away from your character. So you can see I'm pretty tiny there on my screen. And then when you are dodging, angle your camera straight down to look down upon the boss and then your character underneath it. You can also even raid mark yourself. So for example, our elemental shaman wanted a raid marker because he found it was difficult to see his actual graphic indication when he was in Ghost Wolf form, just because of that transparency. So use your raid marks for that purpose, of course. It's very helpful. But anyway, you can see that I've angled my camera down and far zoomed out here. So then I can easily see the blue swipe indications that show where the 180 arc is occurring, as well as the white circular poof of smoke for when the boss is stomping. Now, some players report that they have an easier time looking at the feet of the boss to determine the strike that's occurring. But I don't know. For me, I find that looking at the blue swipe and the stomp graphic is the easiest way. But you can try each one on your own, of course. Now, the rest of the fight, because everyone has to dodge simultaneously, you still have adds to deal with, of course. So what I would suggest is that early on, when people are just practicing, try to allow as many people that are not used to the combo dodging as possible to just spend all the time dodging combos, and the rest of your raid deal with the adds and just allow the raid to survive as long as possible. Because if you only practice when all 10 players are dodging, you're not going to have very many opportunities. It's going to take a long time for people that are not used to it to get the practice they need. So in our case, we had 2 melee DPS, a couple healers, and our tanks, and then the rest range DPS. So I think 5 range DPS. So we allowed most of our range DPS that have not experienced the combo before to spend all their time practicing in our early attempts. So they didn't do anything with the adds, really. They just spent all their time dodging combos and learning that. While our 2 melee DPS, myself, and I think one of our range that was used to it, dealt with the adds. And this way, you can just maximize that time. So you can spend easily 8-9 minutes doing this fight, just allowing people to practice that whole time. And that adds up quite a bit. And then once you get enough practice time in and people are getting good at the dodging and all that, then you can actually move into real attempts, so to speak, where everyone is dodging. Now, once you start doing real attempts with all 10 raid members simultaneously, you're not going to want to be dodging combos when you're dealing with adds. So the timing of that is just as important as, getting the combos right. Now, there are a few obvious chances that you should be using. The most obvious is during Titan Gas. And once you start getting into the swing of things, that's probably when you'll be doing all your combo dodging attempts. Because obviously during Titan, there aren't any new ad spawns. So, of course, this is more damage if you get hit and you're not good at it, but the assumption here is that people are pretty good at dodging at this point, and you're just trying to get the achievement credit at this point. So you can see that once Titan has started, we're dodging this combo, and often, at least early on, for the early Titan gases, you can actually dodge 2 combos in a row during one Titan gas before ads start spawning again. So if, again, for any reason, someone in the non-tank group fails to do their combo, they should speak up quickly so that your off-tank that's on the other boss doesn't have to use their teleporter or whatever it is and get over there. And then you can try dodging the second or follow-up combo, and if you're able to do that, then your tank can still use their teleport to get over in time. So just communicate that. You can also use the very first combo that occurs. So when the bosses are spawning, slightly before they spawn, there's a set of adds that will also appear, 2 rages and a strength. But your DPS shouldn't have any trouble just burning them down quickly, and then get in position so that they can dodge that first combo series that happens when the bosses spawn. But after that first one, the adds are always kind of appearing at random times, and especially with courages in there, you don't have many opportunities for everyone to avoid adds. The last thing you want is to do a successful dodge only to have a strength stun everyone at the end or something like that. So, I would recommend the first combo and then just doing it at Titan gas times after that. So it's, again, a pretty difficult achievement, but just like I said, practice. Zoom your camera out. Look at the indications for the animations, And make sure your off tank has some way to reliably get over in position and use macros to target and strike the boss quickly, because they're going to get gripped fast. And if you get all that worked out, just try it enough times and you should get it. So that is Show Me Your Moves. Good luck, and thanks for watching.